So Isaac, appreciate you stopping for the interview.
Yeah.
This is David here. He was born yesterday.
Hi, David. Congratulations on your birth.
Yeah, he was very happy about it. He had a good day.
Yeah.
And so I'm going around asking people. First off, I spend a lot of time trying to teach them everything. And there's a million things on the internet telling you what to think and what to believe in and stuff like that. And so what I figure what we do is go learn how to learn what we know.
Yeah.
So asking people what they know and how they figured it out.
Okay.
So what's something very important to you, Isaac, that affects your life, that you believing has an important impact on your life?
Yeah. Well, I work with plants.
Yeah.
And plants are really important for everything.
Sure.
Like, they produce oxygen. We eat them. We need them for a lot of things. This kind of leads into what I think is really important. It's like paying attention to the things like in your immediate vicinity.
Okay.
Whether that's plants, people especially. That might be the most important thing.
Sure.
Knowing who your friends are, knowing who you can rely on, knowing who relies on you.
Yeah.
I'm religious, so
Okay.
I think faith is really important, knowing that there's something beyond what's around us.
Okay.
And, you know, getting a sense of where things come from, because that's always going to be a question.
Yeah.
Like, if that impinges on how we deal with the things that are around us.
Sure.
So yeah, plants, friends, family if you have it,
Yeah.
and if it wants to have you. Yeah, it's kind of the basics, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of things just kind of work themselves out from there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, how did you come to the conclusion? Like, why plants
Oh.
and... David! You all right, big guy? You need to reinforce his feet. Yeah. So,
How'd I come to those conclusions?
yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
why plants and not something else?
I just found myself around them more.
Yeah.
Started working with them kind of on accident.
Yeah.
So like I don't really have conclusions. I just have like a sense of what has led me to where I am.
Yeah.
And so I think just being okay with that process. It's okay to have a sense of like where you want to go.
Sure.
But I think it's important not to get too caught up in like how exactly you're getting there. And like there's a lot of good reflection to be done on like, I mean, of course, you know, David was born yesterday.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of time to reflect on, or till he's at the point where he can reflect on, you know, the past.
Sure.
And how he got to, you know, wherever he ends up. But yeah, I think those are, I guess it's kind of anti-conclusion or like non-conclusion.
I mean, it sounds like you
know.
have a lot of foundations that you base your life around.
Yeah, yeah. If you have that stability, that
Yeah.
foundation, you know, things that you know you can lean on and that can help like, you know, move you forward, then reaching a conclusion
Yeah.
doesn't feel so urgent.
Okay.
So you can just kind of take whatever the next step is.
Okay. So David here, he was born yesterday.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the same life experiences as you, so he might not know what you mean whenever you're talking about value the people around you. Like, what kind of system or what kind of mentality or mindset can he take to say this is how you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, I guess like, you know, pay attention to who you end up around. Pay attention to like the impact that people have on you, whether it's like, you know, these are people that make me want to, you know, be a better person.
Sure.
Like, do more good. Also people who will like be honest with you. People who won't just tell you what they think they want you to hear. Oh, he's falling again.
David!
Yeah, because it's not something that you can just like automatically know or intuit without some experience. So it takes time. You got to be like patient with your environment, with the people you're around, and just kind of continuously be aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before you realized this, let's say there was a time at which you weren't aware.
Uh-huh.
What changed?
I think, like, certain experiences of, like, disappointment, confusion, disappointment with others, disappointment with myself, trying to figure out how to, like, what were the sources of that, and what I can learn from it, and using it as an opportunity to, like, be gracious with myself, be gracious with other people, and yeah, just kind of piece things together.
I like it.
After that, so yeah.
Sounds like some fun experiences you've had here.
I guess, yeah. Some of them fun, some of them not so much. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you think that David will be able to figure out some of the things you get into without the same experiences?
I think so. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, no two people have the exact same experiences.
Sure.
So, I think.
What do you think would be the missing piece to say, like, I mean, obviously your worldview is the best that you've formed based on your experiences. Is there a way to get there without the experiences? I think what's happened here is I haven't had you define your worldview too strong.
Yeah.
I got a little distracted thinking that car was about to get crushed in a gate.
Oh yeah.
But why don't you think everyone else thinks the same way as you do?
I mean, I think there's certain, you know, you can get so far with, like, given assumptions and, like, just kind of positive claims about, like, this is how things are, this is how the world works. And I think experience won't necessarily debunk those, but it'll change them. It'll change the way you think about them.
Yeah.
So I think it's very helpful. Like, I was raised in a, like, Christian family, and I'm still a Christian, and so I was raised with a lot of, like, positive claims about this is how things are.
Sure.
And you know, experience and reflection, like, gives you the opportunity to think more deeply about those things in the context that is your own life.
Yeah.
And because everyone's context and experience is going to be different, even though people, like, tons of people will share those same claims and beliefs, but the lens through which they interpret them is always going to be, like, a little different. And just the way that they experience, if they hold those things to be true, the way they experience the truth of those things is always going to be different. So, but they can still mutually affirm that truthfulness, but, like, because everyone's different, like, it adds to the richness of that truth, if that makes any sense.
Are you saying that there is a singular truth, like a
capital T,
like a capital T truth, and that people can have relatively close to true experiences or understandings, or are you saying that two people can have, the wind is right up against his back here, two people can have two contradictory true things, and they could still be a reflection of the capital T truth?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what I think about this, but I think it makes sense to say that if there is, like, if there's a capital T truth, like, people believing, like, incommensurable or incompatible things with regard to that doesn't mean that in some way both of them are, like, I think at the end of the day both of them are still in some ways participating in, you know, whatever that capital T truth is. And I think part of the goal is to, like, just figure out how one can participate more fully.
What's it mean to participate in truth? Man down.
Well, I mean, Christians do it through worship and prayer,
Sorry.
and a lot of other religious traditions do it through, you know, similar things, but in different ways. I think our engagement with other people who are also participating in it is like one of the most important ways we participate.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel... I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're good. I was kind of rambling.
No, I like it though. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I want to do with this, because a lot of times what we have is we have a lot of claims from different people all over, and it's hard to know, you know, how do you judge the value of what everybody's saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's very difficult, and so I'm hoping that we can learn to talk to each other in a way that we can answer questions, we can discuss it, so that we can actually communicate our ideas and our intentions better. So my goal is not to push one truth or the other as much as it is to hope the methods get better.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important, because like I think everybody kind of knows that things are just getting more and more like siloed off, and like people are becoming more and more entrenched in like either their own particular camp of thinking or just their own like brain. Like that's happened to me before. I'm sure it happens to other people.
Yeah.
So this goes back to like, you know, what I said about the importance of like seeing just who's around you, because chances are like even though like we talk about having like communities and people who think the same as us, but usually we have to go kind of outside our immediate vicinity to like find those people. Like the person living next door like probably thinks way differently from me than the people that I go to church with, for example. And so if we don't have a way to like actually talk to people, and you know, if we aren't able to abide like difference in thought and belief, and like kind of work through those differences and see how they affect all of us, then like what are we doing?
That's true. Honestly, it's difficult. I mean, there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
It's not even like there's a lack of information anymore. It's just so much information.
Yeah, it's saturated. And it gets in, I think, like that, all the information and data and everything just kind of like it floods the system.
Yeah.
And makes it, a lot of the times I think it makes it harder for us to actually like talk to people.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Now, you mentioned your Christian faith. Is that something you want to discuss? Maybe how you come to that conclusion, or is that something you'd want to talk about another time? Or
I mean, I'll provide a little bit of info. It was never something I came to a conclusion about. It's like I've never had a season of like, you know, anxious searching for, you know, figuring out if this is actually like logically consistent. There are people who have, and part of me is a little disappointed that I haven't like had the need for that, but it's also like a really stressful time from what I've heard. So I've just kind of like taken a lot of things as given.
Sure.
And I think it's important to like know why they matter, like, whether they make sense. And so I've just kind of settled into like, the way I live my life right now as a Christian.
Yeah.
And just kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah.
I'm being very vague.
That's all right. It's a big topic. It's hard to know where to roll with that. Hold on, David. So is there a so maybe we all have shared experiences in which we all feel the sky is blue without having to do deep searching of it.
Yeah.
So maybe, but I say if we thought about it and say, well, I could find out some reasons why I might think the sky is blue, or it might just be, well, I experience it. Do you think you could look back and say, here's some of the reasons that I think it continues to be true to me, that it's something that I haven't changed anything, like even though I was in it, it hasn't shown itself to be something to go without?
Yeah, I think like anyone who grows up or has like a long history of being in religious environments, having religious experiences, like you look back on the experience you had like as a child or as like a youth, and like you have a sense of what that meant to you at that time, and then later on in life you're like, I'm not sure that's actually what was going on. But like, you know, who am I to doubt the you know, the meaningfulness of that experience, like at that moment in time. And like, even though my reflection on it today, or you know, at this point in my life, may look a lot different than you know how I thought about it back then, that doesn't necessarily like remove or replace the meaning that it had, but it just adds another layer, another kind of facet to it. I don't know if that answers your question.
In some ways. So you mentioned like your hypothetical neighbor might think differently than you, might have completely different views than you, and they didn't have the same experience as you did. Is there a way that you think they could come to the same conclusion as you have now, even though they didn't have the same experiences growing up?
I think it's possible to come to like,
you kind of want to explore
if
that?
not like the same conclusion, like at least shared language and like talking about it. But I think that would require them to have their own, you know, series of experiences to get to that point. I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure it's necessarily a good thing when people just like hear something and are like, okay, yeah, that is like, I mean, the sky's opening and it's like, this is true kind of moment. That's interesting and sometimes good.
Yeah.
But I don't want to like put all my eggs in that basket necessarily.
So what would you say one of the main... No, I'd say you answered. You said the experience was very important to you, and that's what shaped as painting different aspects of the painting to kind of give, to throw out an analogy. Do you feel this is something that other people should believe as well?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I don't think I would... Like, it wouldn't have a lot of teeth if I just thought it was, like, not important for, you know, everyone.
Sure.
I think, like, there are... I mean, I don't think so highly of my own grasp of, like, what I believe to think that, like, everyone ought to believe like me. That would suck. But I think, like, yeah, so when you say, like, believe the same things, like, and also, I mean, there are people who believe, like, the same things as me that I, like, disagree with about a whole lot of other things.
Sure.
So, like, as far as, like, there's like a surface level of, you know, the content of something like a creedal statement, or like a belief statement, that, like, you know, you can say this thing, and then there's, like, that's, like, the tip of the iceberg, and then there's all this stuff underneath it that, like, isn't talked about. So, I don't know.
Sure. Well, maybe one more question for you.
Sure.
You mentioned an experience being one of the major things to help convince you. If David or somebody else wanted to have the same understanding of things, what kind of experience would they seek out, or
I'd
how
say
would it happen?
like if David, finds himself interested in religion, interested in like the experience of like something transcendent, like outside himself and outside the rest of this, like
Sure.
Seek out religious settings where you might find people who are experiencing something like that.
Yeah.
Like Christian settings are great. Some of them are kind of weird. I mean, I grew up in some weird ones. That's fine.
Sure.
But like, if he's interested in some different kind of meditation practices or like something more in that direction.
Sure.
Just kind of see what's out there.
Sure.
Find some religious texts like the Bible or the Lotus Sutra or like Quran. Like try them out, see what you think.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about them with people who read them and believe them.
So interesting that. So one of the things that you said is try them out.
Yeah.
Is there something that will happen when they try it out to know that it's been confirmed or not?
I'm not sure.
Sure.
Some people think so. I'm not so certain.
Sure.
Something might happen.
Yeah.
I can't really say what it will be.
Yeah.
I think that depends on the person and a whole host of other factors that I can't really list because I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So, but I think when you know, and then there may come a time when that knowledge becomes problematized. But you just keep trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I mean, that sounds like a lot to chew on for sure.
Yeah.
What about some of the? Let's assume that we figured it out. What are some of the benefits that David could be expecting?
Richness of life, a deeper sense of, I guess, I don't know, deeper sense of meaning.
Sure.
More I don't know, a connectedness, both interior or internal and external. I think these things help guide us and lead us in certain ways.
Yeah.
If we're faced with difficult circumstance or just confusing times in our own lives, these things can help us.
Sure.
And they if we steep ourselves in them, we can be helpful to others.
Yeah.
Through that. Yeah. So.
Sounds like a very great deep dive. I love this.
Yeah.
This was neat.
You might get eternity out of the deal.
Maybe. All right.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Wow, David, down. Any questions for me or anything before we stop recording?
Yeah. Why'd you what made you want to do this?
Well, I have always had a desire to try to help people figure out how to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. I grew up with different aspects of my family being very conservative, being very liberal, and being around a lot of different sides fighting each other and talking past each other. And so it was very inspiring to me whenever I came across this thing. It's called street epistemology, at which they do this. They talk about how we get to the beliefs instead of just this is right, this is wrong, these are good people, these are bad people. Because, I mean, while there's a place for those kind of conversations, it feels like most of the people who are trying to learn need to figure out how they get from point A to point B, not necessarily being told what point B is. Or at least for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm fascinated by this. I love meeting strangers, and I love learning about what people care about, what gives them meaning in life, what gives them purpose. And my goal isn't to push one thing or the other, but more to strengthen the people's. Maybe they'll say, okay, I realize I don't have an answer for this. And so they'll go home and be like, all right, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And it's not a character flaw, in my opinion. I mean, it's just, we've all lived very busy lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Because, like, especially with, well, yeah, we don't often find ourselves in, like, because we struggle with talking with people who disagree with us, like, we don't have that force that's trying to, we don't have, like, that negation, that contradiction that's, like, pushing us to actually, like, get deeper.
Yeah.
Unless we have it, like, you know, certain people have it in themselves, but not everyone has that.
Yeah. And a lot of times it gets seen as weakness to show consideration, to show, maybe that's a point. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It almost feels like conceding, like giving an inch to the other side.
Yeah.
And that stuff, I mean, just doesn't go very far for me.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah. Well, I really appreciate your interview here.
Yeah.